There is a truth so painful that most adult children of narcissists spend their entire lives running from it, drowning it in achievement, in therapy sessions that circle around it without touching it, in relationships that mirror it, in silence that protects it. And the truth is this: the parent who raised you, the one whose love you chased your whole life, the one whose approval you contorted yourself into 1,000 shapes to earn, was not actually capable of loving you. Not the real you. Not the soft, messy, complicated, breathing human being you were born as. They were capable of needing you, capable of using you, capable of performing love in front of others while emptying you in private. But the kind of love a child deserves, the warm, steady, unconditional, identity-affirming love that builds a nervous system strong enough to face the world, that love was never on the table. And if something in your chest just tightened reading that, if your stomach dropped and your eyes started stinging and a quiet voice inside you whispered, "Finally, somebody said it," then you are exactly where you need to be right now. Before we go deeper, I need you to do something for yourself, not for me. Subscribe to this channel. Because what you are about to hear is the kind of truth you were never taught to recognize, never given language for, never allowed to speak out loud in the home you grew up in. This channel exists for people like you, the ones who were raised by emotional predators wearing the mask of mother or father, the ones who are finally ready to stop gaslighting themselves about what really happened in their childhood. Subscribing is how you tell your own nervous system that you are no longer alone in this. Now let us go where it hurts, because healing lives on the other side of what you have been avoiding. The first reason a narcissist does not love their child is the most foundational and the most denied. A narcissist does not see their child as a separate human being. They see their child as an extension of themselves. From the moment you were born, you were not a soul with your own destiny, your own preferences, your own emotional inner world. You were a mirror, a trophy, a project, a second chance for them to win whatever they felt they lost. Your achievements were theirs to brag about. Your failures were personal insults to their image. Your emotions were inconvenient noise that interrupted their narrative. And this is why, no matter how much you accomplished, it never felt like it belonged to you. Because somewhere deep inside, you knew you were performing a life for an audience of one, and that audience never clapped for you, only for the version of you that made them look good. A child who is treated as an extension never gets to develop a self. They develop a function, and functions do not get loved, they get used. The second reason cuts even deeper, because it explains the confusion that haunts so many survivors well into adulthood. A narcissist is psychologically incapable of empathy in the way a healthy parent embodies it. They can mimic it. They can perform it in public, in front of teachers, in front of relatives, in front of a camera. But empathy, real empathy, the kind that requires a parent to set down their own ego and enter the emotional world of their child, is a capacity they do not possess. And when a child grows up without empathic attunement, something terrifying happens inside their developing brain. Their nervous system never learns what safety feels like. They become hypervigilant. They scan faces for danger. They learn to feel everyone else's emotions before their own, because their survival depended on predicting the unpredictable mood of a parent who could turn cold without warning. This is why so many adult children of narcissists feel exhausted by simply existing around other people. You were not born anxious. You were trained into it by a parent who could not see you and punished you for needing to be seen. The third reason is one that survivors almost never name out loud, because to name it is to grieve something so foundational it feels like the ground disappearing beneath them. A narcissist loves conditionally, and only conditionally, and the conditions are always rigged. You were loved when you were useful. You were loved when you were impressive. You were loved when you reflected well on them, when you stayed quiet about their behavior, when you did not embarrass them, when you agreed with their version of reality, when you suppressed your needs to elevate theirs. And the moment you stopped performing, the moment you needed something, the moment you had a feeling that inconvenienced them, the love evaporated. It was replaced by silence, by punishment, by cold withdrawal, by rage disguised as discipline, by humiliation disguised as honesty. And a child cannot survive the absence of parental love, so a child learns to chase it. They learn to read the room before they learn to read a book. They learn to abandon themselves before they ever learn what a self is. And decades later, as adults, they find themselves in relationships, jobs, friendships, where they are constantly proving their worth to people who should be loving them freely. Because conditional love in childhood becomes conditional self-worth in adulthood. You were not too much. You were not too sensitive. You were a child trying to earn what should have been your birthright. The fourth reason is where the deepest damage often hides, because it operates through a weapon disguised as a gift, and that weapon is image management. A narcissistic parent is obsessed with how the family appears from the outside. The clean house, the smiling holiday photos, the well-behaved children, the carefully curated stories told to neighbors and relatives. And underneath that polished exterior, there is a war zone. There is a child being screamed at behind closed doors and complimented in public. There is a child being told they are loved while being systematically dismantled. There is a child learning that what is real does not matter, only what looks real. And this teaches the child something catastrophic. It teaches them that their pain is not allowed to exist if it threatens the family image. It teaches them to perform happiness while drowning. It teaches them to lie to themselves before anyone else can ask the truth. And this is why so many survivors struggle to even identify their own emotions as adults. You were trained to suppress, to smile, to perform, to deny. You spent so many years pretending you were okay that you genuinely lost access to knowing when you were not. The image always mattered more than you did. And a parent who chooses image over child has already chosen against love. I need to pause here because I know what is happening as you listen to this. I know your chest feels heavy. I know there is a part of you that wants to argue with what you are hearing, because to accept it is to accept a loss so profound it feels unbearable. And I want you to know that this grief, this exact grief you are feeling right now, is sacred. It is the grief of finally seeing the truth your inner child has been carrying alone for decades. If this is reaching you, if something is cracking open inside you, please subscribe to this channel. Not because I need it, but because your future self does. The version of you who is going to heal, who is going to break the pattern, who is going to finally rest, that version of you needs a community and a voice that does not lie about what happened to you. We tell the truth here. We name the unnameable. We refuse to soften abuse into misunderstanding. Stay with me. We are not done. The fifth reason a narcissist does not love their child is the one that fractures siblings, destroys family systems, and leaves adult children questioning their own memory for the rest of their lives. It is the brutal mechanism of favoritism, scapegoating, and the golden child dynamic. A narcissistic parent does not see their children equally because they cannot see their children at all. They see roles. They see uses. One child becomes the golden child, the chosen one, the extension of the parent's idealized self, the one who can do no wrong, the one who is praised, protected, propped up, and ultimately enmeshed beyond recognition. Another child becomes the scapegoat, the family disturbance, the one blamed for every conflict, the one who notices too much, who questions too much, who refuses to play along, who carries the family's projected shadow. And sometimes a third child becomes the invisible one, the lost child, the one who learns that disappearing is the safest way to survive. These roles are not random. They are assigned based on what the parent needs psychologically, and they can shift over time as the parent's needs change. And here is the part that wrecks survivors. The golden child is not loved either. They are used differently. They are colonized. Their identity is consumed. And the scapegoat, who suffers more visibly, often becomes the only one who eventually sees the truth, because pain has a way of clarifying vision. If you were the scapegoat, your seeing was your salvation, even though it cost you everything. If you were the golden child waking up, your courage to question is one of the most heroic acts a human can perform. None of you were loved. You were all cast in a play written by someone who could not see you as people. The sixth reason reaches into the most invisible and insidious wound of all, the wound of emotional neglect and invalidation. Because a narcissistic parent does not only wound through what they do, they wound through what they refuse to do. They refuse to comfort. They refuse to apologize. They refuse to acknowledge your emotional reality. When you cried, you were told you were dramatic. When you were hurt, you were told you were too sensitive. When you tried to express a need, you were met with eye rolls, sighs, mockery, or cold silence. When you tried to talk about something that happened, you were told it never happened, or it did not happen that way, or you are remembering it wrong, or you are crazy for bringing it up. This is gaslighting, and gaslighting in childhood does something to the human psyche that few people fully understand. It teaches a child that their own perception is unreliable, that their feelings are dangerous, that reality itself is something other people define for them. And this is why so many adult survivors struggle to trust themselves, to make decisions, to know what they want, to leave bad relationships, to set boundaries. You were not born indecisive. You were trained to distrust the one instrument that was supposed to guide you through life, your own inner knowing. The narcissistic parent did not just wound your heart, they sabotaged your relationship with your own mind. And reclaiming that relationship is one of the most radical, sacred acts of healing you will ever do. The seventh reason is the one that ties all the others together, the one that finally allows you to stop blaming yourself, the one that has the power to set you free if you let it in. A narcissist does not love their child because a narcissist cannot truly love anyone. Love requires capacities they do not have. Love requires the ability to see another person as fully separate, fully real, and fully worthy without needing anything in return. Love requires humility, accountability, the willingness to be wrong, the ability to repair after rupture, the ability to celebrate someone else's light without feeling threatened by it. Love requires an inner world stable enough to hold someone else's inner world. And a narcissistic parent does not have that inner stability. Underneath the grandiosity, the rage, the manipulation, the cruelty, there is a hollow, fragile, terrified self that they spend their entire life avoiding. And they used you, their child, to avoid it. They used your love to fill what they could not fill in themselves. They used your obedience to feel powerful. They used your achievements to feel important. They used your pain to feel superior. And none of that was ever about you. It was never about something you did or did not do. It was never about how good you were, or how hard you tried, or how much you gave. There was nothing you could have done to earn real love from someone who did not have it to give. And the most liberating sentence you may ever hear in your life is this: it was never your job to heal them. It was never your job to be loved by them. It was never your fault. If you are still here, if you have stayed with me through all of this, I want you to know something. The fact that you are seeking this information, the fact that you are willing to feel this hard, the fact that you have not numbed yourself or run from this truth means you are already further along in your healing than you realize. You are doing something your parent could never do. You are looking inward. You are taking responsibility for what is yours, even though it should never have been yours to carry. You are breaking a chain that has likely been passed down for generations before you, and that takes a courage most people will never understand. If this video has reached the part of you that has been waiting decades to be reached, please subscribe to this channel and stay close, because the path ahead is not easy, but you do not have to walk it alone anymore. We talk about what no one else will talk about. We say what your family would never let you say. We hold space for the truth you were never allowed to speak. Hear me clearly as we close. You were not unlovable. You were not too much. You were not the problem. You were a child who needed a parent capable of love, and the universe gave you a parent who was not capable. That is a tragedy, and it deserves to be grieved fully, not minimized, not bypassed, not spiritualized into something prettier than it was. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be devastated. You are allowed to mourn the parent you needed and never had. And then, when the grief has done its sacred work, you are allowed to do something they never did. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to stop chasing the approval of someone who weaponized your need for it. You are allowed to walk away, emotionally, physically, energetically, from anyone who only loves you when you disappear. You are allowed to reclaim the identity that was stolen from you, piece by piece, year by year. You are allowed to build a life so full, so honest, so authentically yours, that the wound your parent gave you becomes the doorway through which you finally come home to yourself. The generational pattern stops with you. The silence stops with you. The shame stops with you. You are the one who breaks the chain. And every step you take toward your own healing is a quiet revolution that the child you used to be is watching with tears in their eyes, finally believing that someone is choosing them. Let that someone be you. From this moment forward, let that someone always be you.